Good evening. Welcome. I'd like to call the City Commission meeting on June 27th, 2024 to order, please. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Mayor White,
Here.
Vice Mayor Grunder,
Here.
Commissioner Bloodsworth,
Here.
Commissioner Miller,
Here.
Commissioner Williams.
Here.
All right, we'll have our invocation this evening offered by Pastor Clinton Cottrell from First Presbyterian Church, followed by the pledge, please.
Thank you so very much. Friends, let us pray together. Gracious and loving God, we come before you today with grateful hearts as we gather for this meeting. As we approach Independence Day, we are reminded of the many blessings we enjoy as this great nation. We thank you for the freedoms we hold dear and for the opportunities we have to contribute to the betterment of our community. Lord, we ask for your guidance and wisdom for our city leaders and all those that are present. May their discussions be filled with respect, understanding, and a shared commitment to the common good. Help them to make decisions that will benefit all citizens, ensuring justice, equality, and prosperity for High Springs. As we prepare to celebrate our nation's independence next week, we remember the sacrifices made by those who fought for our freedoms. We honor their courage and dedication, and we pray for their continued protection and guidance, particularly for all of those who serve in uniform today. Grant all present strength and unity to work together harmoniously, setting aside differences to achieve the best outcomes for High Springs. May we always strive to uphold the values of liberty, justice, and compassion. Bless this meeting, and may your presence be felt among all as they carry out the important work that lies ahead tonight. We ask all these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor. We appreciate that. Yeah, he does. Pastor voice, absolutely. All right, next on the agenda is approval of tonight's agenda, please.
I make a motion that we approve the agenda on tonight.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded that tonight's agenda is approved. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The agenda is approved. Next is the approval of the consent agenda, which includes the minutes of the joint City and County Commission meeting on June 6, 2024, and the minutes of the June 13th, 2024 Commission meeting.
I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda on June 6, 2024, and June 13, 2024.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The consent agenda is approved, 5-0. Next on our agenda is a special presentation, proclamation designating July as Parks and Recreation Month. All right. And the proclamation reads as follows. Whereas Parks and Recreation is an integral part of communities throughout this country, including the city of High Springs, and whereas Parks and Recreation promotes health and wellness, improving the physical and mental health of people who live near parks, and whereas Parks and Recreation promotes time spent in nature, which positively impacts mental health by increasing cognitive performance and well-being, and alleviating illnesses such as depression, attention deficit disorders, and Alzheimer's. And whereas Parks and Recreation encourages physical activity by providing space for popular sports, hiking trails, and many other activities designed to promote active lifestyles. And whereas Parks and Recreation programming and education activities such as out-of-school time programming, youth sports, and environmental education are critical to childhood development. And whereas Parks and Recreation increases a community's economic prosperity through increased property values, expansion of the local tax base, increased tourism, the attraction and retention of businesses, and crime reduction. And whereas Parks and Recreation is fundamental to the environmental well-being of our community. And whereas Parks and Recreation is essential and adaptable infrastructure that makes our communities resilient in the face of natural disasters and climate change. And whereas our parks and natural recreation areas ensure the ecological beauty of our community, and provide a place for children and adults to connect with nature and recreate. Whereas the U.S. House of Representatives has designated July as Parks and Recreation Month, and whereas the City of High Springs recognizes the benefits derived from parks and recreation resources, now therefore I, Catherine Whites, Mayor of the City of High Springs, do hereby proclaim that July is recognized as Parks and Recreation Month in the City of High Springs. Signed and sealed this 27th day of June, 2024. All right. Next on the agenda is our first item of unfinished business. Discuss, consider, and act on ordinance 2024-04, an ordinance of the City of High Springs, Florida, calling for a referendum question to be placed before the qualified electors of the City of High Springs at the next general election, which is scheduled for Tuesday, November 5th, 2024, providing charter referendum questions determining whether to adopt the proposed amendments to the charter for the City of High Springs. All right. Do I need to read anything else, Mr. Attorney? Is that sufficient?
If we can either wait until the commission is ready to act, but that is not the full text of the
Right.
title to the ordinance. And
Okay.
so we can wait till then and just read the whole thing in full before you vote.
So what we have before us, gentlemen, is something of a compilation from what we had last time, where the Charter Review Board compressed some of the items into singular items in the hopes of saving space on the ballot. I guess I'll open it up, gentlemen. Do you want to open it up for public comment, or do you want to comment first?
I got a comment.
Yes, sir.
I think they did a good job on trying to put them together, but some of them just do not belong together. I think number 1 and 2, they were great. Number 1 was the same one. But number 3, there are 3 separate issues falling in one category. We got a salary issue, a term issue, and then a censor issue. Those are 3 completely different issues that I don't think can be in one question. Because I may be okay with the commission being able to vote about salary, but I might not be okay with the commission being able to be censored. So those are 3 different separate topics that I don't think can be clumped together to actually make one vote on the ballot. So I don't think that that's going to work out. And then also I just feel like if we do it, all these 8, that's like us doing a consent agenda for the citizens to vote on the consent agenda instead of each item.
So is it your preference to have each individual item presented as it was the original 15?
So I don't know if it's a way, it's a couple of them that'll work. And then I think the other ones, if we could do them individually, like I believe number 1, 2, 4, 6, and 8 works. Now the other ones, they have to be broke up into questions.
So you said 1, 4, 6, and 8? Or 5, 6, and 8?
No, 1 and 2,
1 and 2?
4, 6, and 8.
You're okay with those being the combination?
Yeah.
Okay. So then what would your preference be, Commissioner Miller, for numbers 3 and 5? To break them out, to hold off and wait until next year?
I think that we should hold off to wait till next year, but they definitely need to be broke off. They can't be, because like I said, number 3, there's 3 different questions that don't even align with each other in that particular one.
Okay.
I was okay with them the way they were the first time. And I went back and I thought, and I sat down and I thought more, and I decided if people are going to educate themselves as much as they want to educate themselves on topics, and then the rest of the people are just going to vote however they want to vote, based on different topics. I don't have a problem, but we asked them to reconvene, come back together, do more stuff. If this is how they would like to see it on there, that's how I think we need to put it on there. It was a very diverse group made up of different citizens that worked very hard on this, and I don't have a problem with people educating themselves on this, and if they say there's too many things in there, then vote no. And if they don't, then vote yes. I mean, vote how you feel comfortable after you educate yourself. I mean, we're not going to convince people to read the whole thing. I remember I went back and watched some of what we had talked about, and I don't know, I wasn't happy with the way some of the comments went by us up here, and I'm completely fine with whatever they want to decide. I think it should go down to them. If this is what they came together as a group that we put together, and they said this is how we want to do it, I think we should say, thank you very much for your time and donating your time and working very hard on it, and we should put it in. We should give it to them just the way they want it.
I don't think that it's not that we appreciate the time that we put it in, but also we have to consider the citizens. There were many citizens that stood up during our last meeting saying that they were confused by the questions. And I got a chance to sit down with some of the citizens since that meeting, so that was the reason why, I presented it the way that I presented it, that there's citizens that are confused by these questions, and they feel like they're going to be forced with certain items to vote yes, and then they really don't like the rest of the question. Or they vote no, and then they like a part of the question. So you're forcing their hand to vote for something that they really don't want to vote for.
Then break it back down into 1 and 1, the way we had it before, and let's just vote. It's always going to cost money. It's always going to be extra. It's always going to be what it's going to be. But, then we break it back down 1 by 1, and they vote on that.
Gentlemen, any other comments?
I'm not opposed to doing one-on-one, so that's fine with me.
I concur with you, Commissioner Miller, on a few of these. I'm okay with number 1 as it is. I'm okay with number 5, number 6, and number 8. So we agree on 1, 6, and 8. And I understand your perspective in terms of it being very different items. Number 5 is also very different items, but they're fairly straightforward for me. Allowing that the city manager and the city clerk shall not be, cannot serve, one person can't serve in both roles, requiring the city manager to maintain residency within 12 months, and requiring candidates to the commission to have maintained a primary residence for more than a year. I think those are all fairly straightforward. Where I get a little bit crosswise on these is on number 2. We're combining pretty big items that I do think should be broken out. The plurality of voting, the flip of a coin is I just have a problem with deciding an election by a flip of the coin. I know that some people do that, but it was stated that a lot of folks don't have runoff elections, and I pulled up the City of Alachua's charter, and they have runoff elections. And it's pretty straightforward there. If you don't get 50% of the vote, you have a runoff election the next year. But we don't understand well enough how that would all go yet. I don't know that Angela has had time to even ask those questions. I think those are valid amendments and valid things to put to the voters by all means, but I don't think we understand it well enough yet, and I think we're pushing something through for the sake of pushing something through. And Mr. Walker said at the last meeting that we could hold some of these back to the next year without having to reconvene. We're going to have a lot of things on the ballot this year. There are 6 state constitutional amendments that are going on that are going to get a whole lot of attention. Recreational marijuana, abortion, so many things that I'm afraid it's going to overshadow a lot of this.
And then
And
the next year on our ballot, we only have one thing.
we have one thing. It's only a city election, and it's just one thing. And I think that would give us the opportunity to to do a little bit more digging on some of these issues. There's something in here with forfeiture of office. This is a brand-new section, Section 2.09. And at the very end of that section, it says that if any of the above events, violation of charter, convicted felony, missing 3 consecutive meetings, lacks during the term of office any qualification for the office prescribed, that with substantive and procedural due process, the member may be declared to have forfeited office by a supermajority vote of the commission. I remember very clearly at the charter review meeting that they discussed this, where there were 2 of the members that were very much against that. So I'm not sure how this made it in here. They were concerned about, well then, if 4 commissioners just don't like another one, they can vote them out. And now I understand that there's a procedure there, there's due process, but they were definitely not in favor of that. And I would be more in favor, instead of this forfeiture of office, because I didn't find it anywhere for us, having something added instead, the recall process. Alachua's ordinance says the qualified voters of the city shall have the power to recall and to remove from office any elected official of the city as provided by general law. While, we know that that's an available option, I think it would be important to put that in here too. And if a commissioner is going to forfeit office or is going to be voted out, I think it needs to go back to the people, not be, 5 people up here having that conversation. That's just my opinion on that one. And then back to number 4. That's the forfeiture. So I wasn't really down with that. Number 7 to me, and Mr. Attorney, sir, you may be able to give me a little bit more clarification on that. It seems to be something of a redundant verbiage here in terms of, shall the city's charter be updated to require commissioners and charter officers to assert they are not precluded from holding office pursuant to Florida Constitution verbiage there prior to taking office. Is that process not already gone through when a candidate qualifies?
Does the city of High Springs, and this may be a question for Angela, does the city of High Springs handle its own candidate qualifying?
The upcoming election, I handle the qualifying.
So you handle the qualifying. And and I could look it up, but I think I can get a quicker answer from you. What are the elements of a person being qualified per your charter?
Currently?
Currently.
You have to be a registered voter for City of High Springs.
And that's it?
There's no, I know there's a talk of adding a time period, you have to be a qualified registered voter and live in High Springs.
Okay. And so those being your 2 qualifying elements that have to be met, although there are other constitutional provisions that exist, it may be that an individual not being aware, for example, of if you had someone who had the status of having a felony conviction and they had never received clemency, there would not be a stopping place along the way in the qualifying process where they had to sign a document taking an oath saying that I'm qualified under state law to also run. And so I think recalling back to the conversations, and the members of the Charter Review Committee are out there, they can correct me, but I think the gist of the conversations was, let's have this stopping point in the qualifying process where they sign a document saying that they are fully qualified not only under the City of High Springs ordinances and charter, but also state law and any applicable federal law to be able to run for and hold the office. Let's not wait till we get later in the process to have that document signed and have that analysis done. So I think that was the process, the thought process behind the charter.
Okay, that makes sense. And the other part of that one, in terms of allowing the city commission to make supplemental appropriations or reductions and require the city manager to inform the commission when revenues will be insufficient. We're already doing that with budget amendments. Is that correct?
If I recall, and again, I think I was here for a meeting where that was discussed, because it was me and Mr. Walker alternating
Right.
For the meeting coverage, but I think I was here for some of the discussion on that, and I think the problem that they were seeking to solve was a situation where perhaps a city manager may choose not to. And there was nothing requiring a manager to advise the commission about certain adverse budgetary and financial matters. And so they wanted that put in the charter so that there was actually a mandate placed upon the city manager that you don't have discretion about this. When it comes to your attention, you need to bring it to the attention of the commissioners as soon as reasonably possible to do it. Whether that be at the next regular meeting or at a special called meeting, that may be a subject of discussion. I can't remember the substance of the charter amendment on that particular issue, but you can't wait 6 months and try to work it out on your own and perhaps dig a hole deeper before you bring it ultimately to the body that's elected by the citizens to advise them of what the situation is in their city.
Mr. Marshall, what's your opinion on that?
So my opinion would be that we're gonna do it anyways. I call each of you commissioners one-on-one the Wednesday prior to a commission meeting and talk about any concerns or ask any questions. And if there was an adverse budgetary thing that I felt was significant enough to come to the commission, I'd let the commissioners know one-on-one. And then I would probably include it in my manager's report for the public at the next meeting. That's how I would handle it regardless of, whether it was charter or not. I think I'm not swaying either which way on how to vote on this, but it's the right thing to do any which way.
Okay.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, sir.
refresh my memory here. I know we were talking about putting this on the ballot. We
Yes,
still haven't decided one way or other on that. Is that correct? Are we still going to try to put this on the ballot? Or as a body, can we just determine one day we're going to sit down and we're going to make decisions on agreeing with this or accepting it or not as a commission?
We're at that point now, just in terms of the time frame, in order to get it on the ballot in time.
I do know that. I
So-
remember that part. but-
Yes, we're at the point now where we can either say, we accept none of them, we accept all of them, all 15, we accept some of the ones that are here. We would like all 15 to be separated out and voted all on at once this year, next year. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, sir, but that's the opportunity we have at this point.
That is correct. Your limiting factor right now is just the election schedule more than anything else.
Right,
But
right.
you've got any of these at any time, the commission could say, we're going to postpone on these 4 or 5. And at any time in the future, the commission could, on its own accord, go back and revisit them and place them on a ballot for some future election.
My only concern about is being in a rush to do this, to get it on the ballot. Since all this has come out, I've had a few citizens addressing it, saying they're concerned about some of the verbiage and the wording and how this is going to work. I'm just wondering, should we be looking into more of this that people are reading and learning a little more about it and getting concerned about it before we rush and spend the money
Yes,
to
sir.
put this on the November ballot?
Yes, sir.
When there is a lot going to be on there.
There is. That's definitely an option. Like I said, for me, numbers, there are a few of them that are pretty straightforward, but there are some others that have a lot of nuance to them that I think do potentially deserve a little bit more time. I agree with you in terms of not rushing. The censure process, that's a pretty big deal. But the Charter Review Board, I think, was told that everybody has censure language in their charter. I can't find it in Alachua. I only pulled up Alachua because they're the closest. I searched online and I couldn't find the word censure. I'm not opposed to the concept. If somebody misbehaves as badly as would be worthy of that. I'm not opposed to that, but I think people need to understand that process a little bit better.
I know some of the citizens' concerns were the plurality of the
Plurality.
voting
Yes, sir.
versus
Yes,
the,
sir. Yes, sir.
you know, majority.
Yes, sir.
I want to make sure they feel like they're being heard
Mm-hmm.
versus waiting and deciding other people, because I'm worried about come ballot, there's going to be so much on it, people are going to get tired and just say, I've done all I'm going to do, turn it in, and we're really not going to get a good perspective on these votes.
Right. That's exactly what the supervisor of elections told Angela, that she was afraid people were going to tune out. And that was why some of it was compiled in the hopes that, they might not. But I think to Commissioner Miller's point, some of those things that are compiled are not at all related. And he's right about that.
It's nothing to do against the Charter Review Board at all. It's just now.
Oh, absolutely not.
plus,
Absolutely. Oh, 100%.
Citizens are now reading and learning more about it, and they're educating themselves a lot more on it.
Yeah, I mean, I do have some concerns with the forfeiture of office. And I do think that the recall language should be in there because that is on the books now, and that would give the power to the people to boot somebody. There was some language in here in Alachua's that I liked better than ours, that's proposed when it talks about prohibitions. Theirs says, neither the city commission nor any of its members shall in any manner dictate the appointment or removal of any city administrative officers or employees who the city manager or any of his subordinates are empowered to appoint. We have that same kind of language now as well. But they go on, but the city commission may express its views and fully and freely discuss with the city manager anything pertaining to appointment and removal of such officers and employees. So where they encourage open dialogue, we're crunching down on us having any ability to have an opinion. Not that we cannot direct. We shall not direct. That's not our lane. But I feel like this allows for a bit more of an agreeable conversation. So my preference would be to put some of these on here as compiled, like renaming number 8, updating the names of the public parks. Sure. I don't think that's particularly a difficult. Number 6, I think, is, there's several of these that I think are good as they are, and that we might want to consider carving some of these off and having more discussion about putting them on next year.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, sir.
So what's the deadline for putting these on the ballot?
English and Spanish, and I have to send it to a company to translate it into Spanish and prepare it for us. It is July 31st.
July 31st.
And remember, we have to have proper notice, proper reading.
And so now, after the Charter Review Board did what they had to do, is there a time limit when the voters have to vote on this? No time limit. So you can do it this year, you can do it next year, or the following year? Okay.
And I know our charter says that, every 8 years we review the charter. You can review the charter at any time. That's just our mandatory thing per our charter.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, sir.
On that note, you also, and the members of the Charter Review Committee may kill me for saying this, but you also have the option, because they've fulfilled their obligation under the charter at this point, per the charter provisions, as has the City Commission at this point. But there's nothing that says you can't take all of this under advisement and say these are great things. Perhaps not as much time was allowed to be spent discussing them and fleshing them out as they were due, and you could reappoint that same group or another group to go back and continue discussions and maybe further flesh them out a little bit and come back to the commission. I mean, that's also an option. It doesn't necessarily all of the heavy lift does not necessarily have to be done here with this body at this dais, you could ask a group to go back and say, we like all of these ideas, they just need to be fleshed out a little more, and give them some direction, and then let them, along with our office, do what we need to do to bring something back that might be a little more palatable.
I think they've done a lot of heavy lifting already.
They have.
They did. They went through this in great detail.
Okay. So that's pretty much a month away for what you need to get the language together. So, and I'm hearing that you can do some this year and you can do some next year.
Right.
So, so I don't want to say simple ones, but there's some of the ones that's not that difficult. or-
Right.
Can we kind of put those on the ballot for this year? And then we can kind of discuss
Yes, sir.
the more in-depth ones? If that's something possible?
Do
Since-
we want to open it up to citizen comments?
Sure. Are you finished with your thoughts at this point?
Yeah, well,
You want to hear from everybody else?
yeah.
Okay.
Let's go.
Do we have any comments from the audience?
Linda Jones. I too agree with numbers 1, 5, 6, 7, and 8, for whoever voted for that. They should go on the ballot this year. Numbers 2, 3, and 4 need more discussion. Plurality, I was surprised, well, maybe not surprised, but that's not mentioned in our charter. Plurality is not mentioned in our charter. If you read what the charter actually reads, it does not mention that word at all. And it has caused some discussion amongst the citizens. I know that there's differences of opinion, but I do believe that needs more attention. Censure, it was brought to my attention at the last meeting, the final meeting that the committee had, that I had an opinion about one of the commissioners I was serving with at the time, and made so publicly. The only way commissioners can talk to another commissioner is publicly, and sometimes that's not convenient, but that's the only way you can do it. So I did, and that person then, the next meeting, responded to my comments. So it was done and done. It would never have occurred to me to have this person censured. I mean, that just never crossed my mind. I just had to get it off my chest. And I don't even know how the rest of the commission would have felt about it to begin with, since we can't talk. At any rate, that I thought about it considerably since it was brought to my attention at the meeting. The forfeiture bothers me tremendously. All of you commissioners were voted in by the people of High Springs. It is not up to 4 commissioners to take them out of office for any reason, in my opinion. And we're not talking about murder or whatever that, but for this type of thing, I do not believe 4 people should have that ability. Also, to your point, Vice Mayor, yes, 5 people were appointed to do this, and they've brought forth their opinions. And I've sat through these meetings, so I know how hard they worked on them. That's not my problem. My problem is that 5 people are making decisions for all of High Springs. And we need to make sure that all of High Springs understands all of these, and when you lump them up, or even if you separate them out, you still need to use language in the ballot that is used in the charter, not bring in other words. Thank you.
Thank you.
Janet Evans. I don't have any specifics, but I can tell you generally, I agree with this idea that only 5 people are making these plans for the entire city. And yes, as a citizen, as a resident here, I do feel that I need to have time to read them, digest them on my own, and to be able to go talk to my neighbors about it. I have to understand it well enough so that I can talk to the folks in my neck of the woods that rely on me to keep them informed about what's going on. I think that I agree with this idea that if it's a simple stuff, yes, let's go ahead and get it taken care of now. But anything that needs more of an explanation, I think that that should be held to next year when we have more time to be able to learn about it ourselves, educate the people, explain it more specifically on the ballots, and not have them just gloss over them because they've got so much on this one. And I think that we are a little bit behind the 8 ball because this sunsetted date has already passed, and the committee should have had another meeting with which to continue to have this discussion. But when it was,
They did.
they did.
Yes, they were reconvened and they were brought back to discuss how to kind of compile it. So they did.
I understand that, but that was the 5 people that were chosen to work on
Right.
this, correct?
Right.
Well, it should have, at that point, then have been given to the commissioners to discuss, because they
That's
had
what we're
done.
doing tonight. Right.
I understand that, but it didn't have to be sent back to them another time. It kind of put us a little
Oh,
bit
I
behind
understand what you're saying. I get it.
behind the
Okay.
8 ball
Okay.
by
I get
doing
you.
that.
I get it.
So those are my comments.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Sue Weller, good evening. There are a couple of things I want to point out. Every single one of these amendments were voted on by every single person on that committee, all 5, and it was all unanimous, every single one. If you read the report that we sent you, every single one of those amendments said it was a unanimous vote. There may have been some discussion as to one way or the other, but at the end, it was unanimous. The other issue I want to point out, on the issue of plurality, if you read the language that is proposed, it doesn't say plurality. It says, the candidate running for a particular seat receiving the greatest number of votes shall be declared the winner. It does not say anything about plurality. Thank you.
Okay, then I'm missing something, Ms. Weller. I apologize. It says here on our packet, provide for a plurality voting system. Is this not the verbiage, Mr. Attorney, sir, that would go on the ballot that we have here?
Yeah, because this is the verbiage that Scott wrote, right?
Which,
We're looking at number 2, Charter Amendment, Commissioners Voting and Notice.
Okay.
Sentence 3, updated to provide for a plurality voting system, the flip of a coin to resolve a tie in an election.
Right, so the word plurality means whoever gets the most. And so because this state statute limits the descriptions to 75 words, they were trying to conserve words. So they use the word plurality as a substitute for the several words, whoever gets the most votes in that case. So you're
Okay.
correct. I mean, it does use the word plurality in the ballot description, and I suspect it was because they were challenged on their word count.
Okay, so I think that just, at least, does that make that clearer? Where that language came from?
If you look at, understand what the Attorney's Office put together for their 75 words. They've put that language in there. But if you look at not only the report, but if you look at the actual charter where they sent you, and that is the language that would be in the charter, it does not say plurality.
Correct, but it does in what people
I
would be
understand.
voting on.
But then you can change that if you have to. But what I'm saying is that it is in fact not in the charter and
I
not
understand what
going
you're
to be in
saying.
the charter.
Right, I understand what you're saying. Thank you, ma'am. Anybody else?
I'm Lynn Jamison. I was on the Charter Committee. I do live in the city of High Springs. My concern is that I feel like some of you are having questions about some of the issues that we brought up that hold you, the 5 people, accountable. We had issues before in the past with commissioners and Mr. Williams. I know you remember this time of in 2010 to 2013. And the people had to get together. We had to form a citizens group, and we had to eventually vote those people out. Well, if you're 6 months into your tenure in this job, and you're violating the charter and violating the charter and violating the charter, what recourse do we have? To do a petition, which takes 180 days, and that it has to go before the people to vote? Or is censorship or censure helping to redirect that commissioner to doing the right thing? To me, that is an easy way, a kinder way to force a commissioner to follow the charter. We've had rogue commissioners before, and it's not fun. It's not fun as a citizen, and it's not okay. I want to know what you all have a problem with being held accountable just by a censorship. People can remove you after your 3 years when they go to the ballot box. But to redirect a commissioner that is doing wrong, all it is a slap on the wrist. That's what it is. If you're the parent, it's a spanking when your child needs to be redirected. And to me, I don't understand why some of you have a problem with that. We, the people, you work for us. If you're going rogue, just because we come up here and talk and say it, perhaps, does not mean that anything's going to happen. But a censorship, or being censured, is a way to get you to go the right way and to quit doing what you're doing. And I really have a problem with commissioners that we voted for having a problem with being held accountable.
I don't. I understand your perspective, Mrs. Jamison, and I appreciate your comment. I don't know that any of us has a problem with being held accountable. And if we have an issue with another commissioner, I think we're pretty respectful about discussing it up here in public. And as Mrs. Jones said, she did that, and there was a response, and it was a done deal. I think we're all held accountable every day. And we're held accountable right here to the people who come and speak to us. And we're certainly not all perfect. We're going to make mistakes, and I'll admit to every mistake I make every day and learn from it. But I think putting in the censure language for me is not so much of an issue as a forfeiture of office by supermajority of the commission. I would prefer for that to have, like I said, the recall verbiage, because that's legal, that's allowed, and that gives that power back to the people who put the commissioners up here.
Being censured is also part of the Roberts Rule of Order, so you can be censured anyway. But I have a problem if you do not feel like you can be held accountable to the other commissioners. No, you can't talk to each other. You have to do it in a meeting. But when you do the censure, it's a quasi judicial process. You get to say what your side of the story. When you read a letter against another commissioner, they can come back, but the other commissioners may not agree with that letter of censure. But it's a quasi-judicial process where everyone gets an opportunity to say what their side of the story. If you were censured, Mr. Bloodsworth, you would get to say your side of the story. And then the group would decide, the other 4 would decide whether that's plausible. And I think you all should be held accountable. You work for us.
I agree. Accountability is important, absolutely. Anybody else?
Rick Testa. I live here in High Spring. I'm going to stick to one point. I'm what Commissioner Miller reminded us of. There's citizens out there that are trying to understand this, and I'm way behind the 8 ball. So the only thing that's stuck in my mind like a brand is section 2.09 on page 409. When I read these things, these forfeiture things, censorship is, like Mrs. Jameson mentioned, is a good thing. Censorship is bring up a problem and let's have a discussion. You can do that in sports, you can do that, city commission. Censorship, I have no problem with that. But this forfeiture thing, this putting this discussion and the people up here, whoever they are, what decade they were up here, it is an end around the democratic process that's supposed to be the form of government that all you all are supposed to abide by. We, the people, in our form of government, are supposed to put you all up there, which we did, and hey, I'm thrilled with all y'all. But it says very clearly, a member of the commission shall forfeit the office if, and then it gives you these things. I'm brand spanking new to the planning board here in the city, voluntary, group. I still haven't figured out what I'm supposed to be doing on the planning board. I could make a mistake any night of the week, and if I was to forfeit my position there because I made a mistake, I didn't memorize this entire, I've been trying to memorize this thing for a week and I haven't gotten close. Again, my point is 2.09, in my opinion, just one person here, the whole thing needs to be stricken and rewritten completely. This forfeiture thing is wrong. You're going to end up with 3 kids in 3rd grade holding a click because they don't like the person next to them in the chair. That's what's going to happen if this thing were to go. Violates any express prohibition of this charter. In other words, any one of you makes a mistake during the week and somebody doesn't like you, or there's a clique that forms, which has happened on a lot of commissions, that's just my comment. That's the only thing that I've had real problems with in the whole package, personally. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? All right, gentlemen.
Well, I make a motion that we put number 1, number 6, 7, and 8 on this year's ballot, and all the other questions at a later date, we revene for next year's ballot.
Okay.
Say those again.
Number 1, 6, 7, and 8.
Okay. So then that would leave us commissioners voting and notice, commissioner salary, mayor term, and unified commission to instruct city manager, adding forfeiture of office section, and disallowing individuals to serve as both manager and clerk, residency requirements for city manager and candidates.
No, not number 4.
That's number 5. I'm just trying to, you've got,
Oh, the one
those are
that's
the ones that we
leaving.
would be holding
Okay.
over for next year,
Yeah.
potentially. Okay, so 1, 6, 7, and 8 on the ballot.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Procedurally, what I would recommend, because we've got the ordinance in the format that it is before you, would be to entertain a motion from someone to strike from the ordinance before you questions 2, 3, 4, and 5, and vote on that and amend the ordinance before you.
Okay.
And then, assuming that passes, then let me read the ordinance by title with the remaining questions, which are 1, 6, 7, and 8.
Yes, sir, okay. Does that make sense, gentlemen?
No, I missed it.
What the attorney is saying is that the motion should be to strike the ones that we want to hold over to next year's, for more discussion. So he's recommending that your motion be to strike 2, 3, 4, and 5. And if that passes, then make a motion to amend it to include these only.
Well, then
To-
the amendment will
reread-
pass,
reread
and then
the-
we'll just reread the
reread the
title
ordinance.
and pass it with the remaining.
Okay.
Okay, so I make a motion that we hold over for 2, 3, 4, and 5
Yes, sir.
till next year.
Okay. No second? All right, does anybody have a different motion?
I think 4 or 5 months is more than enough time for us to put on educational information for everybody. I think that we should put the ordinance forward as it is written. I make that motion.
No second? Gentlemen, do we have a different motion? Commissioner Williams.
I think we gotta do something.
Yeah.
We will. We'll do something. Can I
Original 15, but I don't.
pass this to second somebody? Well, I mean, there's two different motions on the floor now that have been proposed. Would they need to be re-proposed so that I pass the gavel on second one, or?
I would suggest that somebody offer a motion that you could second, or that you offer a motion that somebody else could second if you're going to pass the gavel.
Okay.
And then hear it fresh.
Okay.
Failing that, something else the commission may consider doing is just going item by item and seeing if there are 3 commissioners that at least support each individual item down the list. And whatever comes out of those individual votes then would be what you would consider for your ultimate ordinance that goes forward.
Okay. Then I guess can I pass the gavel?
Madam Mayor,
I-
I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll second it. Commissioner Miller's.
He'd have to remake the motion,
Can he
though.
redo the motion?
Okay.
I would say re-offer it since there's been an intervening motion in between, so.
All right, Commissioner Miller, do you want to offer your motion, sir?
Before you do it, let me ask you a
Yes, sir.
question. Let me ask you a question. So now, so if we was to do that, break them down, so that mean, do we start all over again with the,
No.
No, sir.
No?
No, sir. No.
so then, how would the changes be made? We make the changes?
We
on-
would-
On the language?
Yes, sir. And we would set it for the next election when we have just a City of High Springs election. According to Commissioner Miller's proposal, 2, 3, 4, and 5 would be stricken and held over till next year.
Okay.
To give us more of an opportunity to discuss those in detail and maybe separate them out instead of compiling them into a single paragraph, because these, address different items, different issues. Item number 2 is 3 separate issues in one paragraph. So we would have the opportunity to flesh those out again and maybe put 10 on the ballot next year when we have just a single city election, not a national. So no, they're not going away, that we wouldn't need to reconvene the board. I mean, we could, but we wouldn't need to. We could just take what they gave us and, maybe massage it so that it was easier to understand or palatable to the group. That make sense?
makes
Okay. All right. Commissioner Miller, you want to make your motion?
I'm trying to remember it.
Strike
I
and-
make a motion that we strike 2, 3, 4, and 5 for this year's ballot.
I second. We're gonna
Okay.
do something tonight.
Okay, okay. All right, it has been properly moved and seconded that we strike items number 2, 3, 4, and 5 from the ordinance and proceed with, we'll read the ordinance again after the vote, or should we read that now?
After this vote, then you
Okay,
would-
okay. And this is a roll call vote? Okay. So do you want to read the title, or should we vote on this?
you would vote on this
Okay.
motion first.
And so this is not roll call. All right, it has been properly moved and seconded that we strike items 2, 3, 4, and 5 from this year's ballot. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed?
No.
Aye.
All right, motion passes 3-2. All right, now the next step, sir.
Madam Mayor, Commissioners, you have before you ordinance number 2024-04, an ordinance of the City of High Springs, Florida, calling for a referendum question to be placed before the qualified electors of the City of High Springs at the next general election, which is scheduled for Tuesday, November 5th, 2024, providing charter referendum questions determining whether to adopt the proposed amendments to the charter for the City of High Springs, providing for the full text of the proposed amended charter for the City of High Springs, providing for requisite ballot language, providing for repeal of all conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. And Madam Mayor, that is the title. And for clarification, the text of the document before you now would only advance forward items number 1, 6, 7, and 8, which will probably, when they come back to you, be sequentially numbered again as 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we will also, in the Attorney's Office, amend the Exhibit A to the charter, or to the ordinance that has what I call the underlines and strike-throughs of the red line version, to just include what would be changed by those 4 questions that you're moving forward.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you, Madam Mayor.
So now we will need a motion to adopt this ordinance as the city attorney has just presented.
I make a motion that we adopt this ordinance 2024-04.
Second.
All right, it has been properly moved and seconded that we adopt the amended ordinance number 2024-04 as presented by the city attorney. Madam City Clerk.
Mayor White?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Grunder?
No.
Commissioner Bloodsworth?
Yes.
Commissioner Miller?
Yes.
Commissioner Williams?
No.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. All right. Next on the agenda. Second item of unfinished business, discuss, consider, and act on ordinance 2024-05, an ordinance amending the adopted fiscal year 2024 budget of the City of High Springs, provided an effective date, providing for conflict.
This is just second reading. I don't have any other presentation on this.
Nothing different from last time? Okay. All right. Any questions, gentlemen?
No, ma'am. Well explained last time.
Yes. Any questions or comments from the audience about the amended budget? All right.
Madam Mayor, I would like to make a motion then that we approve ordinance 2024-05.
Second.
All right, it has been properly moved and seconded that we adopt ordinance 2024-05.
So we're gonna get this show on the road.
Madam Clerk, we're going to run down.
Mayor Grunder?
Yes.
Commissioner Bloodsworth?
Yes.
Commissioner Miller?
Yes.
Commissioner Williams?
Yes.
Mayor White?
Yes. All right, ordinance is approved, 5-0. All right, next on the agenda, citizens' requests and comments for issues not on the agenda. Please state your name for the record and limit your time to 5 minutes, please.
Rick Testa, and I want to hand out some photographs. I was hoping I could get these up on the screen for the people in the audience and at home or whatever, but it didn't work. I don't have a memory stick or anything like that. So if you could, I'm going to show you a photograph there, and this is happy news. I'm bringing you some happy news tonight. Okay, he likes it.
Yep.
There you go. I just mentioned a minute ago, I'm the brand-new member on the planning board, so this has nothing to do with me. I want to make sure you all realize this is your planning board before I got there, and Christie. I've gone to planning board meetings over the last 30 years. It's been up and down, around and around, and I've seen some pretty tragic mistakes, and then some people do some good stuff. This, in front of you, is one of the most remarkable things I've seen in 30 years. It might not be remarkable to everybody, but it should be. This is a duplex, and the builder, his last name is Herring. I don't know the man. I saw him at the meeting, but What's remarkable about this is Christie got the paperwork, talked to this individual builder. We've had problems in the past with builders that come in and say, we want to put up a this, that, and the other thing, and the people in the community and the neighborhood are real unhappy with the results. You all are completely aware of that before I was. This guy and Christie bent over backwards to cooperate with the suggestions that the planning board had. And each one of the people on this planning board right now, not me, I'm not one of them. I mean, this happened before I got there. They're intelligent, they're responsible, they don't go out fishing with each other, they're not buddies, or I don't even know if they know each other that well. I don't know any of them, but these people are paying attention, and it's volunteer like the CRA, anybody that's volunteering. But this was behind the Chevron station, if you don't know this picture yet, if you haven't been by there. So when you get a chance, go down there and take a look at this thing, because everything you see there was a suggestion by somebody on the planning board or Christie, and the builder cooperated completely with these ideas. The shake shingles on the front of the roof there, those shake shingles match that historic district down that street. Look at the columns, the vertical columns that hold up the front porch. That was an idea one of the planning board members had, and the builder said, no problem, it'll cost me a few extra bucks, but I get it, it'll look nice. The most amazing thing in the picture, if you're looking at it or you've already noticed it, is the double doors that are at the same place. So it looks like a French door when you drive by. It doesn't look like a duplex. You go down the street and there's a duplex with a door here, a door there, and 4x4s holding up the front porch. So that's all I had tonight, and I'm proud to be with these people. I hope I can keep up, but tell them thank you, and if you ever get a chance to speak to this Mr. Henning, any of you, Herring, H-E-R-R-I-N-G, tell him thank you too. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I think everybody's in agreement. Our plan board, I would put our plan board up against anybody.
They're amazing.
Any town
They
around,
are
I would put
amazing.
ours up, hands down.
David Lynch, L-I-N-C-H. I gave each person a piece of paper with the words shame, ill repute, infamy, and ignominious. So this is what happens when you let High Springs Brewing use the High Springs name. It brings shame, ill repute, infamy, and something ignominious upon the city. Moving on to another subject, too much growth is taking place. I urge the commissioners to be aware of the intense growth and overpopulation that's taking place.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? All right, moving on. Does the commissioners have any response? I think Mr. Vice Mayor said it all about our plan board. They're a great group. You're so right. All right, next on, we're going to new business. Discuss, consider, and act on agreement between the School Board of First Christian Academy and the City of High Springs for School Resource Officer Program. Chief, it's good to see you.
Good to see you. Good afternoon, Madam Mayor and Commission. The item in question is a contract between the School Board of First Christian Academy and the City of High Springs for a police officer for the School Resource Program. What's different from the previous contract, this is an annual contract, but there was a calculation of a 4% added into that, obviously for inflation and other reasons. So if any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
I have no questions. Gentlemen, any questions?
No, ma'am.
Any questions from the audience? All right, gentlemen.
Make a motion that we approve the contract between the school board and First Christian Academy with the City of High Springs for a school resource officer.
Second.
All right, it has been properly moved and seconded that we approve the contract for the school resource officer for First Christian Academy. All those in favor, say aye. Those opposed? All right, First Christian. Chief, you're still up.
Yes, I got
Next
second
item,
item.
discuss, consider, and act on an agreement between the School Board of Alachua County and the City of High Springs for a school resource officer program.
This particular item is for the School Board of Alachua County and the City of High Springs for 2 police officers at the High Springs Community School. What is different from this contract here, from the previous contract, this year is a 3-year contract. There was a 2% increase from the previous year, and then there is an additional 2% of compensation each year thereafter. So recommend approval. If any questions, I'll be more than glad to answer.
Does the school board know how lucky they are?
I think they do.
I think they're getting a better and better idea every day, I'll tell you
Oh, I
that.
tell you.
No, Chief, our school board, or our school resource officers that you have been able to pick up and lure in, by the
Yes.
way, you stole one from us.
Yes,
Feel
we
good
did.
about that, because I
Yes.
wish I could get her back every day.
Yes.
No, they are fantastic.
Thank you.
Between Montana, Parker, Lumpkins, I mean,
Yes,
best in the business.
Thank
You've done
you.
it's a testament to you and your hiring, Chief.
we appreciate
Done
it.
a damn good job doing that.
Yes, sir.
And every time you see Sheriff Gainey, you let him know he cannot have Montana back.
Right?
Because he's trying.
Or
and
any
he-
other of our police
Nope,
officers.
nope,
No, no.
negative, negative.
Lord, they try. God knows they try.
Not nice to poach on our officers.
I will say, I always, it just blows my mind every time, but when I drop my daughter off and my son off at school, Officer Lumpkin knows each one of them by name and has a nickname for them.
Yes.
And remembers what they're doing over the weekend. One day I sat out there for 30 minutes and just
Yeah.
watched because I was like,
Yes.
unbelievable. I mean,
Yeah.
and
He can't leave. He's going to be in that position for a while, at least until I'm
they
here.
are,
Good.
they are fantastic. And Montana's no different, and I know
Yes,
Debbie knows them all too. I mean, it's,
yes.
we are very fortunate in this community. Always have been, but it's
Yes.
only gotten better since we put our people in the school.
It has.
Gentlemen, any other questions or input? Any questions from the audience? All right.
Thank you, madam.
Gentlemen, I'll entertain a motion.
Gladly make that motion again for a contract between the School Board of Alachua County and the City of High Springs for a school resource officer program.
Second.
All right, it's been properly moved and seconded that we approve the School Board of Alachua County and the City of High Springs for a school resource officer program at High Springs Community School. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right. Next item on the agenda, discuss, consider, and act on the sale of the CRA vehicle to the Building Fund.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Commissioners. Diane Wilson, Finance Director. Currently, the CRA owns a 2021 Silverado that is not being used by the CRA, and the Building Fund has been using one of the leased vehicles from Bancorp. So we're returning that leased vehicle, the leased truck, and we are going to, with your approval, sell that CRA vehicle to the Building Fund. So the Building Fund can use that. It's a more reasonable model. It's got better gas mileage, and it's in our fleet already. So it would be using Building Fund money that would go back into the CRA fund since they originally purchased it.
Gentlemen, any questions or comments?
I like it.
Yes, sir? Yes, sir.
Let's get her done.
So, Mr. Marshall, the leasing company is okay with this?
Yes. So, 4 vehicles that we own are too much for what we need. We have 2 AT4 pickup trucks, and we have 2 Tahoes that we have leased. And what is roughly the monthly for those 4 vehicles? Maybe a little over $5,000 a month? A little over
Easily.
$5,000 a month in recurring payments. So what we're doing is trying to lower the amount of lease vehicles we had. By doing this, you're getting rid of the building department's AT4 and giving the vehicle that was really used by codes and paid for by CRA, and we can take that truck back. The next meeting, you will get a request to buy 3 pickup trucks with the use of ARPA funds. Out of those 4 vehicles, you had the 2 AT4s and the 2 Tahoes. The 2 Tahoes are going to be replaced by Ram 1500s, not souped up, something that is appropriate for public sector. And out of the two AT4s, we are going to get a Ford Ranger for Public Works. That's what Jason's gonna drive. He doesn't need a full-size truck, he said. So that's gonna save us money. So we cut the fleet from 4 vehicles to 3 much cheaper vehicles, and we'll get rid of the recurring payments each month. I will say that we're buying them out of ARPA funds, and I think it's gonna come up to less than 150 grand for the 3 vehicles. I think it's gonna be 130. It's a good estimate. I do say, though, we have an RFP out for our code enforcement officer that will help eliminate one of the vehicles that will save us money. However, if we don't get any responses to that, then we're gonna have to hire a code enforcement, because code violations are starting to stack up, and we will have to come back for a 4th vehicle. But I'm trying to cut the fleet down a little bit. I know it went on a little bit. Does that answer your question?
Oh, that's a fabulous answer. I really appreciate it. Thank you, sir, so much. That's all good news. So gentlemen, no questions? Any questions from the audience? Any comments?
One key piece before you vote, and Diane said it, is it takes the money, we reimburse CRA for what they paid for the vehicle, because they actually appreciated instead of depreciated. And the money that's being used for this goes back into the CRA for them to do the redevelopment, so it's a key part that I want you to remember.
Fabulous. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. All right, gentlemen, if there's no comments from the audience, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion, we approve the sale of CRA vehicle to building fund.
Second.
It has been properly moved and seconded that we sell the CRA vehicle to the building department. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Mr. Alligood, you have a new to you truck. No, sir,
That's
you
right.
will not. No, sir.
The pressure's off.
All right.
Yeah.
Last item on the agenda is discuss, consider, and act on interlocal agreement between Alachua County and the City of High Springs for a tree sponsorship program.
Good evening, Ms. Mayor. Good evening, Commissioners. I am Linda Hewlett. I'm Chair of the Park and Recreation Board as well as the Tree Board. So today I'm here speaking for the Tree Board. I'm with Board Member Joanne Tremblay. She facilitated having Lacey Hollingsworth, the Alachua County arborist, come to our May 21st meeting. At that meeting, besides our board members, we had staff Kristen Atkins, City Manager Jeremy Marshall, Mayor Catherine Weitz, CRA Director Amy Bohannon, Women's Club Environmental Member Katie Evans. So Joanne and I are here to answer your questions. Thank you for Angela for passing out the information. It's not interlocal agreement information. It's just information that if we are going to get Lacey to come and plant trees for us, that is some of the ideas for where to look for planting positions. So Ms. Hollingsworth presented a plan for getting more trees planted in High Springs. She has already, by the way, planted and maintained for 3 years 66 trees. So she wants to come back and give us 70 more. But the first step in this whole process is for you guys to approve an interlocal agreement between our city and the county. And if the commission agrees to do this, and you're on a roll right now, I have to say, then we can start looking forward to spaces to put our trees. Did you want to say anything? Okay.
Gentlemen, you have any questions?
Oh, ma'am.
I went to your tree board meeting and
I
it was
mentioned your
wonderful.
name.
It was
Oh,
wonderful.
thank
I
you.
loved it.
It had a lot of positive energy.
Well, and I think the thing that really people need to understand is that you're planning 2 years out.
Yes.
This is not
Yes,
we
ma'am.
need to get this done by next month. You're planning way ahead so that we can
We're
do this
not
right.
behind the 8 ball.
And the
on top.
arborist she was lovely.
She's lovely.
Oh my gosh, she
And
was
she
lovely.
maintains the trees
Yeah.
besides planting them. And she involves children and people in the area so that we learn more about planting
I
trees
think
as
this
individuals.
may be something we should talk to the youth council on Monday about. Maybe they
Absolutely.
could help with this.
Absolutely, ma'am, yes.
I like it.
Yes, sir? You think so?
And the Boy Scouts?
That's right, that's right. This is 2 years out, though. We've got time
That's
to plan.
one more
so.
thing.
The thing that I don't know that people are aware of, though, is that the arborist also said that there is some potential for residents to also maybe get trees planted
She
on their
mentioned
property.
churches, in fact. She
So,
mentioned
that's
residents.
good.
She mentioned along highways.
Mhm.
Yes.
Trees in my house, I'll take it.
Yeah, that's fabulous. With the
They're
with
beautiful
the,
trees. They're not little,
Yeah.
they're not little
And
saplings.
she would choose the kind of trees that would
Oh, yes.
naturally do best here,
Yes.
right? So,
Only natives.
thank you so much. So is there not an interlocal agreement? Do we need to vote on this, on there being an interlocal agreement, or we're just discussing this? Because we've got the agreement right here. Okay,
on that side.
okay. I just wanted to make sure that I understood. Okay. So gentlemen, do you have any questions? The only question I have is where it talks about funding. This is county-sponsored funding, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, okay. Any questions from the audience about the trees?
There is also some funding. Christy explained this, so Christy's, anyway. So she comes running in if I said it wrong, but what I understood her to say, besides the funding that you see there from the county, also, when a builder comes in and chops down some trees, he's responsible to replace those trees or to add to a fund, which Christy Atkins keeps for her Jamaica trip. No.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Rick Testa, I did have a suggestion for the ladies. I don't know if it'll work, but education out of the tree board or their, or, you know, the person that they use is she the tree lady?
She's a county employee.
Is she a county employee? Okay, so she's already doing education. But
She would do education.
Oh, yeah.
She would talk to groups.
She's
'cause
fabulous.
Here's the point. You asked the question about native trees, which is just great, you know. But there's also native trees up here in north central Florida. There aren't good trees. I mean, they don't have a root system. The water oaks, the problems we have with water oaks.
Yeah.
It'd be great to teach people moving into the neighborhood that, you know, for the first time to say, gee, I got oak trees in my yard. Just a suggestion.
Thank you, sir.
Put that on your calendar.
Any other comments? All right, gentlemen.
I make a motion that we approve the agreement between the county and the city for a tree sponsorship program.
Second.
All right, it has been properly moved and seconded that we approve the interlocal agreement between Alachua County and the City of High Springs for a tree sponsorship program. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All right, unanimous, we are on a roll. All right, Mr. City Attorney, sir, do you have an update?
Always great to visit with my friends in Hot Springs.
We love having you, sir.
We love having Clay. Thank you, sir.
Mr. City Manager, sir?
All right, so I'm going to give you a quick overview of some projects happening in the Public Works Department. We have the 11 new pumps that are going in the lift station. A little over half of them are already installed, and the rest of them will be installed by the end of next week. And it all came in under budget at $151,000. The 6 main lift stations are getting their generators. 3 are natural gas, 3 are propane. The natural gas ones are already installed. They're just waiting for the final electrical hookup. And the propane is on order. It should be here in a couple weeks, and that should be all set. Phase 3 of paving starts on July 15th, weather permitting. There is a grand opening this weekend for a new jewelry store on Main Street. This will be Saturday from 4 to 7, and there'll be some local vendors and entertainment there. They're making a big production out of it. And then the last thing I want to talk about is, Chief, did you want to talk about this? Do you want me to talk about Officer Minor? I can? Okay. Didn't want to take your thunder. So Sergeant Moore wanted me to recognize Officer Minor's quick reactions recently on a medical call. On the 21st, approximately 8 p.m., Officer Minor and Sergeant Moore responded to a medical emergency called on 194th Avenue. A female patient was passed out and non-responsive. Officer Minor arrived first on scene and immediately grabbed his AED from his patrol vehicle. As Sergeant Moore arrived, Officer Minor attached the AED and he began the CPR prior to the EMS arrival. EMS arrived a few minutes later and switched over to their equipment, and they were able to find a pulse and transport the female to the hospital. And Officer Minor's quick reaction and response likely saved this woman's life.
Wow.
So hats off to him.
That's awesome.
And that is my report.
All right. Commissioner Bloodsworth, sir?
I'm good.
This employee that will be the employee of the week came highly recommended by the city manager. They said that he came up with a lot of great ideas. So Mr. J.C. from Public Works is our employee of the week.
Nice. Commissioner Williams? No. Vice Mayor?
It's really nice having a city manager. It is nice getting things done.
Yes, sir.
I enjoy that. I just want to tell everybody I appreciate them. I appreciate everybody for coming in and having the honest conversations.
I can scratch the grand opening off my list here.
Where's the blueberries from?
Blueberries, I picked those for
You picked those
everybody.
blueberries? I
No
love
child labor.
blueberries. This fat boy loves blueberries.
I'll-
I was
I'll-
excited.
I'll bring you some
I was
more.
worried I was going to start eating them during the meeting.
Eat away. Just a reminder that Form 1s are due July 1st, well, July 15th, they gave us an extension. Ms. Commissioner Bloodsworth, you don't have to do anything because you've already filed this year, right?
We're finding that out, making sure.
Yes, sir, understood. Mr. Marshall and I went to the Alachua League of Cities meeting in Newberry this week, and it was a really spirited meeting. And we've got a youth council meeting on Monday at 10 a.m., and you'll see your youth council and Boy Scouts out on the 2nd of July planting some flags and some crosses for July 4th. So, give them a honk, give them a wave. They're out there representing us, so that's all I have. Anybody want a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, we're